At the moment, when you're out and about and you're talking to principals and just the conversations you would have had with principals that have booked in to come into the leadership day, what are the main pain points, the main things that are keeping business owners up at night at the moment in the real estate industry?
I think they can definitely see there's a shift that's within the real estate community. The way our consumer wants to participate in selling real estate now, especially since COVID. Like COVID had some challenges, but it also brought out a lot of accelerated growth of how people can see real estate. And although the agents thought, okay, we'll be back to normal sooner or later, the consumer actually really enjoyed that. And today, the art of the digital sale is looking at that, of how the consumer said, yeah, no, I do want to do this. I feel protected. There is transparency there. So suddenly there was that needs to be addressed. And then for most real estate businesses, I think they went with it really well, but if they didn't, you really have to hit the reset button now and say, okay, what is it we need to do to be a modern agency?
Yeah, okay. And Lee, as this time's about to tick over to 4 o'clock and, you know, we're welcoming all our people. In fact, I'm actually having a look here. Let me just read. We're live on Facebook, by the way. Hello to everyone that's come in. Before we get in, I've been trying to contact Realtair, but it seems there's a huge backlog. Listen, I don't know, to that anonymous person there, Lee, is there a faster way they can get on to Realtair?
There is 1300 367 412.
Okay, let me put that in there, Lee. So 1300
367 412, and that's our Australian Service Centre at Gosford, but they're looking after the entire nation, and we'll definitely be able to help you.
Okay, I've just put that in there. Anyway, so Lee, in the next 30 minutes or so, what we're going to do, we had just such a great response to the digital prospecting session we had that we ran as Tech Tuesday last month, sorry. We do that once a month. We've got Tech Tuesday. Today, Tech Tuesday, a great day to be running it because there's rain in half of Australia. So a great time for people to sort of be using indoor time towards education. So digital prospecting is about finding, about getting yourself in a position where you can actually book more market appraisals, immediate sellers, staying in contact with your pipeline. Today, we're going to touch briefly on the actual digital sale, right? And I mean, as someone that does auctions, I'm obviously very interested in the digital sale. The Auction Now platform, which is a big part of Realtair, has recently sort of been changed as a brand and the way that it works. It's new and improved, and now it comes under Sell, right? So Lee, I'd love today in this half hour that we just unpack what a digital sale is and how Realtair helps that enable.
Certainly, Tom, and you're quite right. Auctionnow.com.au was the incredible platform that was originally built by Damien Cooley. And I got to take my hat off to Damien. He put his entire life into every clickable moment, and his vision of an auctioneer and receiving bids and processing and streaming was actually ahead of its time. It was pretty amazing. And then when Realtair had the opportunity to get involved and the acquisition of that platform was done, it also allowed us to say, well, it works for auction, we get that. But still, last year, only 18% of the sales in the country were by auction. Yet 100% of what we hear about is the auction. But there is a lot of places right throughout this country where private treaty is still the predominantly main method of sale. And in private treaty, unfortunately, unlike auction, it gets a little loose because there is no time frame, there is no deadline, and we can verbally chat and I'll go and see the owners. So by bringing in the online experience and saying, okay, well, what if we just use the same process that if you want to make an offer, you need to register. We need to see your ID. And then that way, when it's being presented, And presented means they've gone onto the same platform as they would as a digital online auction, but they're putting an offer forward in private treaty. And at the end of that timeline, or when the agent feels fit, that person would proceed onto the contract and sign in digital. So it didn't have to be a drop of the hammer, but the same capturing of information becomes the important part. So what I thought I'd do, Tom, a lot of people ask me about this question. And when you dive into tech, you can lose people because they think, I'll decide if I want to learn the technology, but tell me why I would use the technology. And in chatting with you off air, Tom, I just did like a little mind map, and I might bring that up just to give people that visibility and vision of what we are seeing with this, so that they can understand why you would go and learn one of those platforms. And for us, Sell has just been the game changer. We've already had Pitch, we've got Sign, but Sell brings in a whole new opportunity for us. And you'll see this within the mind map that, and this word digital, digital could be replaced by the word capture, because if somebody wants to make an offer, we're capturing their details. If somebody wants to follow an online auction or property, we're capturing their details. And, in that first week of the pandemic coming through, we saw like 10,000 people on the platform watching auctions. And you'd click on a property and see the registered bidders, Tom, but the ones that were interested were the followers. When you've got a property of 75 followers, that is your future business and that is your listing stream.
I've got,
and I love
Lee, it's funny you say that, because I've got to tell you, on Saturday, I was doing an auction, the last auction of the day, 6:45 p.m. Mount Pritchard. And it just made me realize how much I need to push the agents to actually get on to Sell, because I'm about to start an auction and a guy comes on over and he says, can I just have the link? And I said, sorry, what do you mean? And he goes, the online link. So I just want to send it to someone to watch the auction. And Lee, I spoke to the agent. They said, no, there is no online link. And then ends up being that he'd been following a lot of auctions on Auction Now, right? He was an educated person that was watching him, but he was at this auction and he wanted to actually send the link to someone who must have been at his house. So there is a large group of the population now whose behavior is they can follow auctions on a Saturday through a platform.
Very much so, Tom. And if you're about to sell your property, I'll give you an example. There's 3 properties for sale in my street at the moment, and there's hardly ever properties for sale in my street. And I don't want to go through there. I know the owners, but I can go online, I can watch it, I can follow it. Because, the sale value of those properties completely affect or impact the net cash impact of the surrounding sales. So to have that interest, but have a digital view or distance from it is absolutely amazing that you have that opportunity.
So spot on. So you can go onto realestate.com or Domain, any of the platforms, suss out the property. But the next bit is, once you're aware of the property, to see this property through the sale process, right? So Lee, there's a handful of things, or maybe 10 things that I think underpin from what you've said to me a digital sale. What's the best way to approach this in this webinar now?
I'm going to share my little screen with you and save the viewer the pain of what does it look like. Tom, yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can. I can see the word sell in green.
Beautiful. Okay, so if you can see Sell, I'm going to take you through the top 10 deliverables. And the first deliverable, let me just click on that, is it's the real estate purchasing site. So Tom, let's say you've just listed a property right now, late at night, and you've got people that want to start bidding on it. You can go straight to Sell, launch that property, send out the link and say, this one's now come available. It's not on the portals yet. Click on the link and let me know what you think. So it is instantly available on a site, which is the Sell site. And I'll come to that in a moment, but the QR coding makes a big part of that. You can have all methods of sale and the QR code. So the QR code moment now brings in, if someone's got a signboard, they can just QR code it. If they're doing a just sold, just listed, they can just use the QR code. But that brings us a massive opportunity in this offer management system of the process. So it doesn't matter if it's for sale, auction, or time sale, we can actually manage all those offers in the digital way. Every time someone makes an offer, automated notifications go out to the purchaser, the vendor, the agent. When an agent's been working some big days, to get back to 65 people is a lot of phone calls versus they can be done in notifications. That then brings us, Tom, to the digital exchange of contracts. And this is the big one now, deposits. We can actually collect a deposit direct off the purchaser where they put their BSB and account number in, and it goes direct into the trust account of the agent, which also allows us to have automated sales advisors and transaction emails. So once you've exchanged the contract, got the deposit, all that is the final legal title information that can now be straight through to automation, which means the agents aren't waiting for administration or putting pressure on administration, which gives you your auto digital compliance log. And then finally, best one of all, Tom, is a future listing stream for future sellers coming through to you. And I will supply that little slide to your listeners so that they can get that. And I'll just bring myself back on the screen. And there you go, Tom. That's the top 10 benefits of it.
Okay. So Lee, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to ask you some questions that are going through my mind. I'm hoping they're the same questions that it might be going through the clients that are watching this on Facebook, and the 100 people on Zoom. So, Lee, for this model, firstly, all over Australia, from a legal perspective, it's ticked off.
It is, because this is not a unique method of sale. It's your normal method of sale being facilitated by digital. So if you load up your WA contract or you load up your New South Wales contract, it's the same thing you would be doing if you'd be carrying a contract round. You're just using digital to dispatch the information. But I think one of the important parts of it, Tom, is it's all in one space. So when an agent gets called up to say, oh, look, we want to investigate a sale, and you open up the log and it shows all the bidders, all the registered followers, the times of day that everything was done, the notifications, that takes a lot of pressure off compliance when it's all in one place in a sequence of events that happened in the digital sale versus let me try and find that in Dropbox and we used something else over here for signing, but it's not connected. Keeping everything in one view is really our passion at Realtair now, that we can take that pressure off the agent and put it back into the process.
Okay. Does the method of sale, because we did talk about auction now, does the method of sale impact at all this system and platform?
Not at all. So originally, Auction Now, which is now called Sell, was purely for auction. But with the modification of, and let's look at real estate in a simple fashion. You've got somebody who wants to sell a house, somebody who wants to buy a house, and we facilitate it. And even if you were doing a combination sale, Tom, where the property was for auction and then you decided to go for sale in traditional analog fashion, it's still the same process. You've got to have somebody who wants to sell it or release it and somebody who wants to buy it. What digital does is says, okay, if you're the vendor and you're the proposed purchaser, are you bidding or are you offering? But regardless if you're a bidder or you're making an offer on private treaty, who are you? What is your driver's license number? Are you agreeing to the terms that if you are the highest bidder, be it in a live auction, a timed auction or a timed sale, you are under auction conditions and you will be required to purchase the property? Because that's one of our most common questions. What if they say, oh, I don't want to go ahead? Well, the auctioneer can sign on your behalf if it's auction. If it's private treaty, it's no different to they made verbal offers and then decided not to go ahead. There is no legal binding contract until the contract is exchanged in private treaty, whereas under auction conditions, it's slightly different. But we're just using technology to, and that's that word, digital capture. That's all I can think of is, did we capture all the information? Did we capture their movements on that information, that they increase their offer from their phone, and we've got that tracked versus someone loosely making a phone call to an agent saying, put that forward and let me know what the owner says. And as we know in real estate, Tom, people don't always believe what the agent is saying. And we've had situations where the owner feels things weren't quite right. Yet transparency brings in that opportunity that no one can get angry at a system. If you choose not to raise your offer, you lost it. You didn't lose it because the agent didn't get back to you in time or couldn't get hold of you via phone. You got a notification. You chose not to increase your offer or bid. That was your choice. It was in your control. And Tom, my big goal on this one is we'll get some harmony from the consumer to the agent, because you can't get angry at a system.
Yes, 100%, because you can't turn around and say it's human error, right? Because it's a bit like, how do I explain? A bit like watching the Australian Open. They don't argue over the calls anymore. Like that's technology, mate. It's right. Like this is not. It's not a human intervention. I want to ask you this thing about the deposit. That Lee, that one pager that you shared screen on. How hard is it for you to bring it back up, or it's too hard?
No, I can do that for you. Let me do that for you.
Bring it up for a moment, because there's a couple of components there I want to touch on. Let's have a look here. Just get that issue. Thanks, Lee. Now, let's go over this. We've said all methods of sale, beautiful. We've got QR codes that are just making that whole process very seamless. What's the next offer management system?
Phil Harris,
System.
Tom, my internet just blanked there for a second. I'll get you to say that again, please.
Okay, sorry. So let's just wait. They're beautiful. QR code, get that. Offer management system. I presume, Lee, what we're saying there is that we've got a system that is able to capture and what the offer is and what the vendors are responding back with. Is that right?
Yeah. So Tom, you come into the dashboard and you click on your properties, but then you click on all your active offers, because across 10 listings, you might have 35 active offers. And it's not fair for an agent to try and remember all that. And I think we've all had a moment of, I didn't get back to Mr. Panos. And because 16 other things are happening, and you can't just humanly rely on your memory. Versus I've clicked on my dashboard, there is all the people offering on my active properties. There's all my active properties with an active offer. So that when you're going into these vendor meetings and the vendor knows there's an offer because they've been notified, but then suddenly you can say, Mr. Panos, the 3 offers we've had on the property today are good offers. They're in the range that we've discussed. I've just had notice from one of those people that they're going to withdraw their offer and their withdrawn interest. And we don't have someone to replace them at this point. So the 2 we have are the very best we have in the marketplace. The person who's withdrawn their offer actually purchased another home. That was their final call to me, Lee. If that's not acceptable, please release me now. I'm going to go on to another property. I'm not going to go any further on this one. But we've got to the truth there, Tom, versus, what happened to that person? What happened to the guy with the raincoat and the poodle? I don't know. Versus in digital, it's all listed, it's there. And it does give the agent the opportunity to say, okay, this is what's going on with all the active listings. And for a sales manager, this is the dashboard of heaven. That's all the active stuff. All the followers are your future business. You could run promotions and campaign against them. And Tom, I think what's most important about digital, and I'll use that word capture again, is it's self-registered. So if you've got a property on the market and I'm personally registering to make an offer or bid, or I want to follow the property, I'm consenting to you that I want to be involved in this. Whereas in the past, we get people ask a question, but we didn't have their full details, or the texting. If they've come through the portal, great. For realestate.com.au, we've got that captured, but we want it captured against the active listing. And Tom, this is the best one. Purchases on a rebound often pay more money than anybody else.
Yes.
So for example,
emotional. Yes, you're right.
And suddenly we've got an offer on a property, but we click on that person. It shows us every offer they've made on all our properties now. So 6 months ago, they offered an auction and missed out. Then they saw another property 2 months later and they didn't get that one either. And that allows me to go in with that emotional intelligence now and say, you know, Peter, don't miss out on a property again for a price you're prepared to pay. It's already happened twice. Please make sure you take this one out. This is yours. And you've got that history to back up the thinking or the approach that you're going to take in the negotiation. So the tracking of that is really important versus, yeah, I think I remember speaking to this person. Now, that person offered on 3 other propities with our colleagues who were in the office. So we actually know the position of the person.
Yeah, look, it's becoming very, very obvious. One time we enter details and we've captured that information that can be repurposed for so many ways. It can be repurposed in the transaction. It can be repurposed as a future listings. It can be, so it's becoming very clear. And I don't want agents to get overwhelmed because I think sometimes it's very easy to turn around and say, okay, where do I start? I'm going to touch that in a moment, but I want to ask you, this deposits direct to trust, Lee, right?
Yep.
So I'm clear. With a lot of properties, a lot of people, I mean, this whole thing with deposits, particularly with auctions, is an interesting one because what happens is some people say, oh man, I don't have a checkbook anymore. How do I get the money across? Oh, my bank, I've got a limit of $20,000. I can only transfer. You've always got these rigmaroles on a Saturday. So explain to me how deposits direct works.
So with deposit, which is all part of the Sell platform, we recognise very fast that agents were making errors capturing details, which is really scary, of BSB and account numbers of somebody else's money. And then to go to some sort of bank browser and lock that in using, products that have been available, that didn't make sense to us versus it's the purchaser's deposit. They may have 4 bank accounts they need to use. They're taking 20 from this one, 30 from that one, 50 from that one. So let's allow them to, we're there at the part of the contracts where we're getting the contracts ready to go. Then it says pay deposit. They hit pay deposit. All that data that you just mentioned before, Tom, progresses down the line and fills in all the details, then shoots the notification to the purchaser saying, click here to pay your deposit through Realtair, and we're the platform. And when they do that, they got to authenticate back to their mobile number, which we already had from the transaction and the registration of bid, because this is not unknown to us now. You had to register. You had to put your details in. You're in the platform and you are recorded. So now we're asking you to authenticate. They authenticate, and then they, Tom, put their own BSB and account number in. And we're not governed by the limitations on their account because we are direct debiting from their consenting. The platform can do that. They're then moving through different bank accounts to achieve that deposit. And then for us, we only facilitate the movement of that directly back into the agent's trust account. Whereas originally a lot of people thought we'd be holding those trust funds. No, your agent on our platform and that purchaser is now depositing funds electronically direct into your trust account. And that avoids, Tom, the Monday morning freak out of, oh, there's $500,000 in the trust account. Does anyone know where it's from? Because details weren't recorded. They were, oh, that's my buyer at. Yeah, but how would anyone know that if it wasn't digitally recorded against a contract, a property, a bidder, an offer? And that's where deposits really allowed us to put a lot of power back into the consumer and the agent. Because if the consumer put in their wrong details, that is a consumer error. That's no different to them being on their own bank browser and making a banking error. Yet if the agent does it due to whatever reason, could be pace, could be late at night, they've had a massive day, that is still an error. And there's been some big challenges across the marketplace with the taking of deposits. But as we're seeing now more than ever, Tom, this one view, one line is, I prospected them when we did the price update. I did the digital introduction. I put them in the Sell. We had registered bidders. It went onto a contract. We took the deposit. It settled. We need that one line, that one platform to sit above our other technologies, but bring it all into one place. And that's what Realtair has been able to achieve with that vision. And, we see that going internationally now, that an Australian technology company is solving the puzzle of putting the missing pieces together.
Okay, can I get you to stop sharing so I can bring your lovely face back on the main screen, and we can just finish off the conversation with the way forward. So in simple terms, last month, Lee, we did digital prospecting, and really we were looking at pitch and how pitch can be repurposed as a digital introduction, a digital price update, which, by the way, I've got to tell you, I'm getting some incredible feedback from the clients, Lee. In fact, if you don't mind, if guys, in case many of you weren't on that session last month, Lee, do you know off the top of your head that number that people text?
Yes.
So everyone, please, in fact, what I'll do is I'll type it into the chat box. What's the number?
0429.
0427.
0429.
Yep.
272 009.
Sorry, 0429.
Yep.
What?
272
272
009.
Okay, and Lee, what do they text?
For today's conversation, text the letters TDI, which stands for the digital introduction. So TDI, and by texting that to that mobile number, which will capture that data and then send you back the appropriate link, which is the digital introduction that we created for Valerie Timms.
Okay.
And even that use of technology, Tom, because in front of a signboard, the QR code's phenomenal. On a just listed, just sold, QR code is phenomenal. But this type of capturing and sending of information just lets our listener understand that it doesn't take a lot now to learn a couple of simple things and suddenly you're a modern agent. But Tom, I'm seeing, I did a listing workshop last week that people attended, and we talked about the changes in the listing presentation, the listing conversation. And an owner's asking different questions now. You know, there's an expectation that, okay, you went home from here last night. I've decided to go ahead. I'm not expecting you to come back. Don't you just text me one of those things and I click it and then we're activated? Yeah, I'll send that to you now. So for all our listeners and agents, staying up to date, I know sometimes it feels it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. And what you get back in time and labor. Tom, for too many years, our agents have had to fix this problem with labor, not technology. And to be able to do it in tech gives them back the control, but also you're not doing those extra 30 sales a year just to cover costs.
So, Lee, if you're an agent now that over the last couple of months is thinking, you know what, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to start. I've got to change. I've got to move to this world that we're going in. And let's assume you got really excited about the digital price update and the digital introduction, which many of them will have just received it. I just want to ask you, the way Realtair works, do you just sort of buy one area of the platform? Because I know that it's separated, like we've got pitch, sell, sign, or do you buy all of them? How does it work?
Tom, you're quite right. We started off with pitch and then we built sign and then we rebuilt sell into what we've been discussing today. But now that we've done that, we are one platform. So it's far easier today to say, look, I'm going with the platform because I've got my price update. I want to get the agent agreement signed, but then I want to sell it in sell and do my sales advices and get my correspondence out. So doing part of it is segmented. And I know myself, I teach to a sequence. And one thing I think people get frustrated with, I've got to go to that one, then I've got to go to this one, then I've got to go to that one, versus the way I build a price update is the same way visually as how I build my agency agreement and how I sell a property. And the Realtair platforms just launched their new One View, and we're in the final part of that now where pitch, sign and sell will stay in the one screen. You don't have to go through the dashboards. And that to us is the future of real estate. So if you're out there thinking, okay, I want to bring it all together, that's all we're doing. And there is like 170 of us involved, passionately committed to this purpose and journey to get it easier for an agent to sell real estate, because it's been way too complicated. And a lot of administrative support's been required, whereas admin could be doing far better things than retyping letters into 3 different systems. If we can bring that all together from prospect to settlement, what a world in real estate it would be. And what a great family business you can then run, where, you know, I've got many of my agents out there now where their 17-year-old daughter or son does all the price updates in the morning, and then the agent, being father or mum, is getting the text notifications that somebody wants an appraisal. You know, tech allows you to do that without being in one place at one time. You can do it from anywhere, but I would definitely go with the one platform approach. And every Thursday, we have a free webinar at 10 o'clock and then another one at 11:30. Pitch and sign is done at 10, and then we do sell at 11:30. And we'd love your listeners to join us for those webinars.
So 10 o'clock and 11:30. And Lee, how do they, where do they go to register for that?
You can go to the Realtair website at realtair.com. For the 10 o'clock, for that number you've been texting today, if you text the word Thursday, that will shoot you the 10 o'clock registration for pitch and sign. And then I haven't set up the 11 o'clock one yet, but that is on our website. But if you text Thursday, that will shoot you back the link for the 10 o'clock one, and that runs every week. And for our principals out there or agents who are about to put on a leverage agent, we have a lot of people attend that on a Thursday as part of their 90-day induction program. If you can learn to generate opportunities in appraisal, you're valuable in a real estate business. Come and learn that skill. And then you can book a demo from any of our account directors at any time.
Okay, I've had 3 people ask me to put that number out again. So I'm just going to repeat it. 0429 272 009. I'll say that again. 0429 272 009. Now, to everyone, if you scroll up on the chat box, I've actually typed that out there as well. Sid Gandhi is saying, let me tell you, Realtair is going to throw away many tech. He doesn't work for you, does he, Lee? He's gone on to say they're going to throw away many tech companies that are only providing one type of solution. This is an offers management platform, then a separate auction platform. And there are many. Don't want to name. Yes, we don't want you to name. But this is great. One-stop shop for everything. I've got to say, Lee, for me, my main reason that, you know, I sort of have come along and become an ambassador of Realtair is it's a little bit like Apple to me. Like for me, if you're here at my place now, I've got the Apple Music Pod that sits on my table. I've got, you know, a watch. I've got the mobile. I've got the iPad. I've got the MacBook. I just find that if you're on the one platform, everything seems to flow a little bit better. Yes, I could have a Samsung phone and I could actually have the Google Chromecast instead, right? I could have that, but all of them together, working together, is just a little bit easier. And I think that's the advantage Realtair has got, right? That's the advantage Realtair has got. Peter Shataris is saying, brilliant, a supercharged CRM. I suppose you could say that. Anyway, Lee, thank you so much. 10 o'clock, 11:30. So there's John saying here, I have Realtair pitch and sign already. What is required to add sell?
Very simple. Just call through to the service center and let them know you'd like to activate the third part of it. It was auctionnow.com.au. Most people know it as that platform, but pitch, sign, and sell. And then we're very close that it's just going to appear in your dashboard anyway, and you'll choose to activate that within your system. And Tom, I've got to tell you, you know, for myself, being with Real Estate Academy for so long and now Realtair Academy, the CEO of Realtair is Peter Matthews, but Peter was a customer of ours for 15 years with Danny Grant and the Ray White Lower North Shore team. So we were working with them in an analog situation, meaning, you know, how training and sales and listing presentations would go. And then when Pete moved it over to digital, and I remember Pete and I having a chat, and I said, look, if I can train one platform and not 50, it's going to be a lot easier to train people. And then if I can give a commitment to the principals that every week at Thursday, I'll teach them digital prospecting, and you don't have to buy your seats. We want you on the platform. Everyone's going to win here. And if I can save an agent from cold calling and door knocking who gets sick of that rejection versus notified of who they should ring for the right reason, we all win. And real estate's been full of bravery for so long that go cold calling and door knocking until you drop versus we didn't let all the established clients and investors know that they can have a price update. We ignored them and we went cold calling, yet we've got better ways of connecting and communicating. And Tom, I'm no different to yourself. I'm passionate about training because I want to see people survive. I don't like seeing people, on the phone all day, every day, rejected, exhausted, and you can ring people too much that you'll lose the business. Whereas providing current relevant information and smoothing the process out is our passion. That's what we want to do. So the consumer passes your name on as an advocate and you live another day in real estate.
Goal. A couple of questions before we go. Can you use this standalone as a single agent in an office leads? Rory has asked. You can. Okay. Trinity asks, can you change who receives notification when an offer has been made? Example, the vendor.
Can you
change who receives notification when an offer has been made? I'm not 100% clear. You know what?
Yeah, I'm on this one. You can choose to make offers transparent or not transparent. So if you want everyone notified, you have that button to switch that on or off, or you can select private mode and not everyone is notified. That would be a choice of discretion of the agent if they wanted to run the sale in that fashion. That is still a choice of the agent.
Okay. Listen, everyone, between every Thursday, 10 o'clock or 11:30, you can sort of turbocharge your knowledge or fill in any gaps. If there's any gaps in it, I would probably say sitting there through a more structured program online is probably the next step to go. Anyway, Lee, I want to thank you so much. Peter's just asked, have you worked out any reductions for this? I hate asking discounts. So Peter, I am letting you know that next month, Real Estate Gym is going to have an exclusive package, particularly on pitch, where we're working what we think is the best pitch document, digital pre-list, price update, and there. So there is something coming, yes, for Real Estate Gym members. Lee, we'll leave you to it. We know you've got a very big 2 days that you're going to be sort of totally immersed in your content there and with your community. I want to thank you so much. And I want to thank all our listeners again for joining us for Tech Tuesday.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, listeners. It was great to appear, and I wish you all the best in these crazy weather and times. Stay safe.
Thanks a lot, Lee. Signing off, everyone.